Hello, my name is Hamish Duncan. I run Hux, and I believe that every designer should be able to build at the speed of thought. And we're here tonight to find out how to do it. Thanks very much for having me. And I'm Hamish Duncan, and I run a very tiny weeny one-person consultancy in design systems. And I'm going to keep this as light as possible as we go through on a bit of a journey. So we'll start with a simple system first, and then we'll build up, and hopefully you won't get too bored. So if you've both got your feet on the floor and you're sat nice and comfortably, and you're just going to take a deep breath. So we're all just going to take a deep breath in. And you're going to think about the air rushing into your lungs and the oxygen from the air diffuses into your bloodstream. So you can sometimes hold at the top. If you're a designer or an engineer, sometimes we can get very dysregulated, especially in a world that's moving at this quick. So it's important to remember to breathe. So you can hold it at the top, and then you can gradually let go of the exhale, and the exhale is slightly longer than the inhale. You can do a count, so you can in for 3, out for 6. And as you breathe out, you think about the carbon dioxide rushing out of your lungs. And this cycle of taking something in, transforming it, and sending something out is pervasive in all of our lives, and it comes into the tooling that we use, in the interaction that we have with artificial intelligence, with Webflow, whatever you're using. So it could be your nervous system that we're talking about. We could talk about family systems. I mean, anybody that's lived with their parents or spent any time with their parents knows that a delay in your response time is very, very important. We can talk about sound systems. Sound systems also have a delay in them. But let's start with something simple. Okay, so black belts need beginners' mindsets. And I want you to forget everything that you know about design systems. So when I say design system, there's loads of weight behind that word, because you think, oh, it's a style guide, or oh, that's a component library. I want you to forget everything that you know about a design system. So scratch all of that out of your mind. This isn't a style guide. This isn't about a component library. This is not a talk about documentation, although I will cover some of those across the talk. So staying regulated is the hardest battle. So we've already covered that one. We've already covered one of the hardest systems. So did everyone take a shower today? Did everyone take a wash? Everyone had a wash. I mean, even if you didn't have a wash, it's fine. You can say that you had one. Oh, you didn't have a wash? It's fine. So when you go and step into the shower, you take an action, which is to turn on the tap. And the water is going to come up from the boiler in your basement or wherever it is in the house, and it's going to run through the faucet, and you're going to put your hand underneath that water to test the temperature of the water. Your hand is the delay in that system. So you've got an action, which is to turn on the tap, an outcome, which is the water's going to flow through, and then the feedback, which is your hand saying it's too hot or it's too cold. So those of you who likes cold, who's a cold shower person? Anyone love a cold shower? Cold shower? Yeah, there's always one. So that's a very simple system. That's Donella Meadows. And once we see the relationship between structure and behavior, we can begin to understand how systems work, what makes them produce poor results, and how to shift them into better behavioral patterns. So systems are about feedback loops. You can find them everywhere. Anyone spent time with their parents recently? I already did that gag. So thinking about systems, they can get much more complex very quickly. So that simple system in the shower that's just one part of the system. If you think about the input and the output of the boiler, the hot and cold water into the boiler, and the hot water out of the boiler, that starts to become a much more complicated system. You could then add another layer to that system, which is how do you electrify the boiler that produces the hot water, and so on and so on. So this is in praise of feedback. Feedback is essential in systems. Without feedback, you don't have a good system. There's a quote from the American mathematician and founder of cybernetics, Norbert Wiener. Feedback is a method of controlling a system by reinserting it into the results of its past performance. So the action, the outcome, the feedback loop comes back round again. So how did I get here? Why am I talking to you about systems? Well, I found out very quickly when my action was to hit a snowboard jump at the wrong speed that a part of my spine was too fragile for the height that I dropped from. I dropped from roughly a 2.5 to 3 story building onto flat ice with poor weather conditions. And I found out very quickly about when systems break. And so they've always got a stressor point, and that is the sort of the fragile system at its absolute maxis. We could then think about more robust and resilient systems, but what we're really targeting is something more anti-fragile. So I woke up and I thought, well, what am I going to do with my life? Because I thought I was always going to be a snowboarder. And so I had to take up something, a system that was going to get me better. And it was going to have to keep me strong, and it was going to have to improve my mental outlook at the same time. So I found out about this great German dude called Joseph Pilates. And actually, I think he's Austrian. Sorry. Sorry, YouTubers. Somebody can maybe correct me there. And he came up with this structured system of controlled movement designed from the inside out. And I can see a lot of similarities in his approach to creating Pilates as we are seeing in the world of technology today. So it's a structured method, and it has a principled approach, and there are some apparatus, so we have tools. So there's nothing more beautiful than a thing that we fix. Has anybody heard of the Japanese philosophy of Wabi-Sabi? Wabi-Sabi, yeah.
It's like broken pots.
Broken pots with gold-flecked sort of fixes. So it's a philosophy around the imperfect, impermanent, and the incomplete. So it's the way in which we can sort of bring things back to life. So in 2018, I set out, after all of these years away from the snowboarding scene, I set out with the Patagonia Wear-Worn tour on an 8-week around the Alps, repairing people's clothes, people's jackets, people's trousers would turn up. We had no idea who was going to turn up with what to repair. And we would make these repairs inside the tiny house. I was driving this tiny house. I had to do a whole B+E trailer towing license that I failed twice, and then fortunately Patagonia paid me to do another one. God, sorry Patagonia, but managed to get the tiny house around Europe in one piece. And over that period, we had this fascinating ecosystem of seeing people bring their garments, these things that had been in their possession for many years with rips in them and tears in them, and they were bringing them back to life, and we were helping them to do it with the free repairs. And it was a form of user experience research, really. I think of it as user experience research. So fast forward to discovering Webflow, using Webflow, getting fascinated about engineering with Webflow, class structures. Whilst I was actually in bed with my spinal injury, I learned a lot about CSS script, but I never had the capacity as a sort of, well, ADHD style individual. I never had the focus and capacity to learn it properly, or the details of HTML. So when Webflow came into my life, it was an explosion of creativity on another level. So I'd sort of gone from being a sort of very average designer to then having a superpower in my design repertoire of being able to sort of engineer. And I always, quite often I wake up and I have no idea what I do. I have no idea what I do. I have this question in my mind: what am I doing with my life? And what am I doing in this job? What is it? What's the system again? And often I'll think, where am I on this journey? So I've always been an explorer. I love my research. I love my research into photography and image research, whether it be the engineering side or whether it be the design side. I've always been a practitioner, so I love to practice my theories. I love to practice on my work. I somewhat struggle of being an integrator, but I'm trying to improve my integration skills. I'm trying to see which parts of the systems that I'm trying to integrate are weak and which are stronger. I love the world of architecture and how to structure ideas, how to present ideas like we're talking about tonight. I love to teach ideas. And I think that we're in a world now that the value of ideas is going to go through the roof. This is now an exponential period of human creativity and expression of ideas. And so that journey has led me to become a steward of this idea, which is that when we want to work as an amplified designer or an amplified engineer, or if you're a T-shaped designer like I previously thought I was, now they talk of tree-shaped designers. So a tree-shaped designer is then expressive in more of a field. I wouldn't try and do two at once because that gets very, very complicated. But I decided to start teaching the theories around design system and how to build quickly, how to approach problems like interfaces and responsive breakpoints, how we structure class systems. If you use MAST or Lumos, you've got all of these fantastic tools that you'll know of in the Webflow world, and how you can sort of teach that to get designers. And what I'm on a mission to do is to inspire designers to become engineers and engineers to become designers, and also product owners to think a bit more like a designer and an engineer. So this is with Fiasco Design in Bristol. So I went in and ran a series of workshops, and it became so addictive. I started teaching all of the agencies in Bristol. And so I started getting feedback from designers that were on the verge of quitting their businesses, their freelance roles, and they were coming to me and saying, I've got this whole new life as a designer. I love my job. I'd just forgotten about how to play with what I do. And so I'm teaching this playful method of how to build at the speed of thought. So you got all of these design and development tools, and we now have the big one, which is artificial intelligence. And that has now erupted into this volcano, and we're seeing not just a journey of practitioners in engineers and designers, but you're also offloading part of your job onto this technology. So AI helps me think. That's the offloading. That's what we offload onto an AI. So it's a lot of responsibility onto an AI. So treat it gently. Has anybody sworn at their AI here? You sworn at your, yeah. Okay, I know. Yeah. Try not to throw the computer out the window. Have you ever surrendered to AI? Have you ever just had a conversation where you've just surrendered to it? Just opened up a conversation, you just surrendered to it?
I've been caught out by believing in it too much and leaning into it too much, and then when things have gone wrong, being in a hole, only to realise that my brain can do it as well, and it's because I've suspended my brain, allowing the AI to do its thing for so long. It takes a bit to kickstart your own brain again and realise, oh, I can do it myself. But it can be dangerous.
Exactly, it can be, and it'll make a lot of things up. It's a maths model. It always has to come up with an answer, so it's going to make things up. But it's our relationship with it. So if we are to surrender to it, that's AI thinks for me. So then we're very dependent on it. Autopilot, you put AI on autopilot, you just say, oh, just do my job, do everything for me, then it's going to bypass you. And then what is the value then in the interaction that you have with it? Or is there a hybrid version? Can you co-think with it? And what is that relationship that you have with it? And I think what will be more important in this next era is doing something utterly unconventional. So search out and seek out anything unconventional. So for me, that was the Warm Wear tour, but also at these workshops, when I'm going into agencies, I'm also seeing a lot of unconventional ways in the ways that we can think differently to approach these problems. So what does my day-to-day Webflow journey look like? Generally like this.
Thanks everybody. Much love out to subscribers, out to John O.
So that's Charlie Bones on Do You Radio. If you're ever looking for a live radio that is a great accompaniment for design and build, Do You Radio is the one. This is the component canvas that you touched on earlier. It's a great development in Webflow's suite of tools. And I love this sort of way of working with an interface. And this is a perfect way to sort of manage component libraries effectively. So let's just get straight to the chaos, because it is chaos at the moment and it's accelerating everything, including mess. So whatever systems we put into AI, it's going to explode them at, to a level. Luke, I can't say his name right, Wroblewski, put it well. PMs are saying they don't need designers for mock-ups. Designers are saying they don't need devs for code. Developers are saying they don't need PMs for requirements. Everyone's unblocked, but from each other, not from the actual bottleneck, which is alignment, which has always been alignment. So we're always seeking out alignment in our systems. So if you have a business, you have a financial system, you have even your smallest business, you've still got a financial system, you've still got a contract system, you've got an NDA system maybe for protecting IP. You've still got a system in there. So there's a way to use these tools that brings you closer to the work and a way that takes you further away from it. So it's important to think about that relationship too. So some points to keep in mind by Frank Chimera's advice here. Beyond the machine. So think of AI like a musical instrument. So you have to develop the touch with it and how to use it. There's strengths and weaknesses in the models. And this is Chimera's above, beside and under. So to be above it, you're steering it. You're steering it like a ship or like a yacht. To be beside it, You're in a collaborative mainframe with it. Try not to be under it, because that's where you're dependent on it. So don't offload your whole life onto AI, because then you might run out of tokens.
And the rest.
And the rest. And all your money and your life. Yeah. So keep thinking about your relationship that you have with it. And we're in new territory and systems 3 thinking, which I'm going to come on to in a bit. But try and code like a surgeon. That's another takeaway. So the AX shift from UX, user experience, to agentic experience. So we're now working with agents in different models. So whether you're working with agents in Claude, agents in Cursor, you're now working with an agent. So you've got all these different types of agents. And what's becoming more important is, especially if you're working in teams, is to have a shared language, guidelines, naming strategy, that you all, there's one source of truth in what you're working towards. So code is becoming the shared language, whether you're a coder, whether you're a designer. AI is improving exponentially at code on a minute-by-minute basis. We're all going to sleep and we're waking up the next day, and AI has been running overnight to improve the code base. And so code is now our shared language. So don't stop building. You have to start by building. You just keep building. Building, testing, building, looking, repairing, debugging. It's going to get faster and faster and faster. So the systems that we build and how we build are going to become more important. And change is coming. So in 2025, employees prioritized feelings of belonging. So I feel I belong here, and feelings of being valued. So my contribution matters to this company. To in 2026, change is handled well. My company navigates change. So they're seeing the navigation from you as leaders, and the confidence in the leadership. So senior leaders inspiring them, inspire trust. Okay, so clarity, shared language, guidelines, naming, we've already covered those. So we're entering a new idea in the post-AI era. And it's assisting us in educating and reminding us to think in different ways. Has anyone read Daniel Kahneman's Thinking Fast and Thinking Slow? You read that? Yeah, that's a great book. It's an excellent book about 2 ways of thinking, the fast mind and the slow mind. But there's an emerging 3rd way. This is the systems 3 thinking. And we're thinking through tools, systems, and other minds. And there's a fantastic poem by Richard Brautigan called All Watched Over by Machines of Loving Grace. I like to think, and the sooner the better, of a cybernetic meadow where mammals and computers live together in mutually programming harmony like pure water touching clear sky. I like to think, right now please, of a cybernetic forest filled with pines and electronics, where deer stroll peacefully past computers as if they were flowers with spinning blossoms. I like to think, it has to be, of a cybernetic ecology, where we are free of our labors and joined back to nature, returned to our mammal brothers and sisters, and all watched over by machines of loving grace. So maybe there is a harmony between us and technology. So we're now approaching the end of the sort of designer-engineer divide. We know who remembers the beginning of the internet? What's your earliest memory of the internet? Like the first thing you used? Mine was Napster.
Like I go back pre-web, like
the text files.
CompuServe, bulletin boards.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we've seen, I mean, where are we? I always think, where are we on the curve of AI? If we first saw, Napster and those things, and then everything changed, banking, retail, the whole scene has changed. The way we do things, the way we travel, the way we interact with one another somewhat, or sometimes not interact with each other. So, yeah, in the era of the 90s, we had things like, I was way over on the left-hand side. I was just using Photoshop and Flash. A bit of Dreamweaver. I'd occasionally touch on Dreamweaver. Anyone else coming into these eras, 2000s, seeing more of sort of WordPress, Drupal? That would be more of the development tools coming out. Then obviously Dreamweaver moving more over into the design space. Then obviously Webflow we've got in there. And it's starting to get and ramp up into more sort of interacting with developer codes, like open source things like VS Code, Style Dictionary, plugging into Figma, Figma Framer, Token Studio, the Tailwind CSS library. And then obviously we get the no-code, low-code expansion, Claude Code. And now we're seeing a pretty much flat, we've got a flat production line now, which we've got sort of all of these tools, and they're all vying into similar territory. So where Figma used to be a purely layout tool, you've got lots of people jumping in on Figma's business, and where you've got Claude, VO by Versal, Lovable, all of these low-code, no-code tools are expanding. Webflow, still my favorite, purely based on the fact that I have so much amount of customization and control, and the MCP plugs into Claude. So where is this all going? So now it's
just checking
sorry,
time.
yeah.
I think we've got 5 minutes.
Oh, 5 minutes.
Okay.
Yeah, I need to speed up a bit. Okay, so
Maybe 10 tops.
okay, 10 tops, right. I'll ramp it up a bit. So when we're thinking about these tooling, and whichever tooling you're using, language with purpose, especially if you're in a team scenario, there's a great book called Speak Machine, which has got 6 core concepts in it. So machines run loops, machines get large, machines are living, machines are incomplete, machines can be instrumented, and machines automate in balance. And the legibility, machines can read it and act on it, is also improving. So it's also thinking about the process order. And I could have put these in any particular order. Some people like to develop first, and then they go to document what they've developed. Or they like to design first, and then they develop, and then they document. Or you could go the completely opposite. So you're jumping in at any one point. So those systems are also important to think about. What's the process order? And that mirrors how work moves inside the business and outside the business with your clients. So brief, visual, build. That could these design workflows are somewhat dying now, and the design workflow is somewhat dead. So you can start wherever you want and do whatever you want. I mean, nobody cares. Like literally, no one cares. So do whatever you want. So there's some systems there to think about in terms of working with Webflow and the complexities that you can take it to, token systems, typography systems, thinking about that career progression. And, I'm always looking at these systems and thinking, how much do I actually know about documentation? How good are my Notion docs? How could I be a better tree-shaped designer, working more towards being a better steward or an amplified designer? And how much engineering knowledge do I actually have, and where can I take it? So there's some fascinating things going on in tokenization, the conversation around data attributes and how we tokenize systems. So on a semantic level, how we sort of use semantic naming conventions so that machines can also read what we want the component to do or how we want to use the component, that we understand it as the same level as the machine does. So a few steps on and a guide on how to become a systems maker. So step 0 is the one most teams skip. They jump straight to building before anyone has agreed on what the problem actually is. Clarity isn't just a feeling. It means you can name the system, the stakeholders, and the gap. If you can't name it, you can't fix it. Leverage is about finding where a small change creates a disproportionate return, not fixing everything, fixing the right thing. Your role in the transformation matters. Are you the architect, the advocate, or the operator? Different answer, different moves. These graphics are actually 3JS procedural graphics that I had no clue how to build these before the emergence of Cursor and Claude, which I use in combination. So Cursor works at setting up the majority of my scripts for 3JS, and then I use Claude to document all of my work with the MCP that connects into Notion, and it also works with my MCP in Webflow. So what does Hux provide? The system is the brief. The machine reads. The better the system, the better the work, and that's at every level of the team. So that's what we're trying to get people to think about in terms of the takeaway. I've been doing a lot of work around this CEL syntax, which is a class naming structure with a data attribute attached to it, which helps the AI to understand what you want the components to do, your class naming structure, the machine readability. I'm not going to go into too much detail of it here because I'm going to run out of time, and Chris is going to. So you can find out lots more on my LinkedIn about my work on that, or you can go to the hux.works/CEL page, which has got all of the methodology in there. I'd love to hear your comments on how and how you think. That's very much a playground space that I'm working in. And this is very much where we're getting to now. The velocity is picking up, and we're looking at 24-hour development cycles, which are coming and around the corner. So this is a procedural typography experiment, again with 3. And there's lots of exciting things out there. Terminal clients for iOS. There's improved monospace fonts. Text users interfaces are very much in trend. There's cool terminals that people are creating from scratch. There's loads of stuff out there. There's loads of work being done on JSON and YAML to improve GIF processing of images. Check out JSON Render by Chris Tate. And obviously MCP apps, another one that's just... So we won't create interfaces in the future. It will be generated. And the question becomes, how do we judge quality? And taste is going to be key. So most design work will be about the feedback loop, the evolution loop, the critic loop. So we think about where we are right now. We're seeing sort of not the end of code, but the expansion of how we code and meta design. Think about where you are on this journey, whether you're an amplified designer, whether you're an amplified engineer. Keep exploring, keep connecting with the other side of what you're trying to find out. Trust in your storytelling, and think in terms of tasks, not jobs. That's going to be very important. Yeah, jobs are bundles of tasks. Technology substitutes for some tasks and complements others. That's a David Autor quote. And this is one of my favorite scenes
Well, then
from Blade Runner.
I love birthday parties.
You work for Wallace.
Subcontract. I'm one of his suppliers. He offered to buy me out, but I take my freedom where I can find it.
Why are you so good? What makes your memories so authentic?
Well, there's a bit of every artist in their work.
I hope that you've enjoyed that talk, and I hope that you can find the artist in your work, and all the best of luck on your journey. I'm really genuinely grateful to the time to share these ideas. Thanks very much.
Oh, Hamish. Thank you, Hamish.